Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the No Cap Space post game show. Tyler, Shawnee, and Andrew all here holding it down. I feel like the one Mr. Krabs means where it's like, Day 72! Like, with the bell.
15.
Oh my God, every
A
day.
huge shout out to everybody in the chat that beat us here. I like to see that.
Yeah, come on now.
I
We
like
see people
that.
chatting before we even go live.
Let's
That's what I like
go.
to see.
Make this the place to be.
Absolutely. It is the place to be. This is the one and only place to really get your immediate reactions to the March Madness chaos. And folks, there was plenty of it. There's still obviously this UCLA Richmond game going on right now. I have it up here on the screen, but look, it's a Sunday night. We're not gonna keep y'all up all night. Like it's been some late nights, okay? We're not gonna keep ourselves up all night. But we got eyes on it. Obviously, Richmond's up by 2 right now. So we're gonna keep an eye on that. And if chaos ensues, look, man, we'll do what we got to do. Okay, we'll do what we got to do. But before we get into these matchups today, let me tell you about our friends at Home Field. No Cat 15. You can get 15% off your first purchase. Get right for March Madness. If your team's still in it, go get right. They can go to the Final Four. You can be in Tampa Bay with some Home Field merch. You can go and find every piece of women's basketball merchandise in the description below at the No Cat Space collection. And if your team's out, but your least favorite team's still in, go buy merch of the team that they're playing. Go support them, Because if anything today has taught us is that it's okay to hate. Hate is encouraged. And we had
you gotta make it up.
A decent chunk of hate across the board today. But let's talk about this game that just finished up. This Tennessee-Ohio State game was as chaotic as anticipated, I feel like. Just both from the swings that we got in the game. Like, these are two teams that can be very hot or cold at different times. And Tennessee is back in the Sweet 16. Kim Caldwell, obviously in this first season, there's been some, I think, almost confusion of questions just because of the system and how can this, what can this do? What can this be? Yet here we are in March, and Tennessee is still standing. And I think there's some equally interesting questions to give to Ohio State with this being the way that their season has gone. But Shawnee, just to lead off here, your thoughts on this Tennessee-Ohio State game and maybe where these programs are now standing right now.
If I had to buy or sell stock, I would like to start unloading stock in Ohio State. To me, it's been 3 years of the Cody McMahon experience. I wanted to believe so hard. I'm not really being given enough hope to continue on with that. So it's I'm going to make room for maybe a Michigan or a Michigan State or something let me get off this. I was never an Ohio State fan anyway. Give us our championship back. But yeah, she's apparently beefing with if you see Dana's comment, because everybody was tweeting and saying she said something.
So it was in the layup lines. I think because I was watching. I was getting ready to kind of hop on stream, so I wasn't fully locked in. But I kind of saw her talking in the layup lines and kind of got pulled away. So my assumptions, I don't know if this is 100% sure, but my assumption is that is when people spotted it because I also noticed it but I just didn't go back and look. That's your layup line, handshake line. Oops.
Oh, so she's doing it from start.
Yeah, handshake line.
If she goes buzzer to buzzer. Okay, now I got it.
Now stock back in. No, the handshake line. Handshake line.
Give me one stock. I would like one stock in Ohio State because that's just really funny.
Okay, wait. We might need to go back and find this. Kim Caldwell was surprised. Hey, hold on. Someone tag me on Twitter, and we'll because
now I need to see it. But it's you can't start all of this beef with everyone and then go out like this. You were one of the hotter teams the last couple years, during the Grace Berger era, the Mackenzie Holmes, the Caitlin Clark, y'all were still contenders. Even in Nas Hillman era, y'all were still in the thick of things with the Big Ten. And now it's kind of you're getting bounced in in the round of 32, and we don't really know what to expect from you in the future. So it's if you're going to do all of that woofing, I don't know what it's about or where it came from, but at some point you got to start putting some production behind it. And we can't. Middle fingers down for now. Middle fingers down for now.
I think I found it.
Oh, please.
Okay, hold on. Let's screen share here. So this was like as they're walking off the court into the handshake line. So again, I saw her still talking towards the end of the handshake line. So here we go.
She went full Josh Hart.
No. Wow. And again, I think what I saw was deeper to the handshake line. So I think it continued, but I missed that part. Yeah, no, that was full like. Notably, Cody shot the ball at the end.
I also love that Kim was looking at her like, I know you're not saying that to me right now.
Like, what are we doing?
She's a mother now. That's a mother. Like, come on.
Like, okay.
Yeah, so that was that's
the AF move for.
But it's like there's a general crash out, but like not really directed because she's still like dapping everybody up. So it's kind of
that to me is more like self frustration and like team frustration than it is like, at least from that clip and like what I saw. It didn't seem direct, again to your point, like directed towards Tennessee.
You like Iowa, take a second to gather.
Iowa was directed, like that.
Maryland, yeah, that was intentional.
Like the Big Ten beef is Big Ten beef, but this seemed more like internal, like self-reflective.
Yes, you got to take a step away. You're just like yelling at people, and everyone's uncomfortable.
And everyone's like, "What are you doing right now?"
Me or me? Is she yelling at you? Or I don't know. I didn't do anything.
Yeah, everyone's just
okay.
But yeah, so well, that's a nice little nugget to get the show started. Now I'm ready to go. Andrew, your thoughts on this game again? I feel like it kind of lived up to the billing of what I called it clown car, like just bouncing all over the place before the game. But your takes on this?
Well, anybody that's asking for Kevin McGuff to go, no, not yet. Like this team won the Big Ten last year. They were tied for third this year. We have a legitimate argument right now to make that was the Big Ten as good as we thought they were, given the amount of team exits we've seen. To be clear, I still think UCLA and USC have the goods because they beat out of conference teams in the forms of UConn and South Carolina. There's to those nine.
Don't give Iowa bulletin board material. Like, we don't need to do this.
But you know what? Up to this point, we have 4 teams in the Sweet 16 already put in here, or we have 3, and then our 4th is coming, and it's SEC, SEC, and Big 12 as of now. I'm just saying, like,
it means more.
Now, look, Kevin McGuff has to readjust his recruitment / portal strategy. They did have Alexandra, or not Boldyeva. She plays for Mid-10 State, but I'm trying to think of the other Russian named big that they had at Ohio State last year. This was the first year that they didn't have a true
Misha
center, like in the middle of the
floor. Not Genestady.
Was that?
Was it the one that looked like Genestady?
That's right.
Yeah, not Genestady.
Yeah. She, so Mikolashnikova last year, you could argue was like a true centerpiece big. They tried to make Asia Petty one this year, but that's not really her position. She's not a true 5. So I think that they did as well as they could with an incomplete roster. Now, I feel like they don't really attack that position all that hard when it comes to just recruiting in general, right? Like, Mikolashnikova was a good player, but is not a star big that can go up against some of the best players in the country inside the paint, right? So as long as you don't prioritize that position in recruiting, you're always going to be an incomplete team that has to run this trap that works against a lot of teams, but really good teams that know how to break presses, like, it's not good. So I think what we're seeing is the cap for Ohio State. Like, this is as high as they can go. Sweet 16, Elite 8, they win 26 games. They could exit early. They could make a run, but they're probably not ever going to be a Final Four team. At a school like Ohio State, that is not a basketball school by any means, I think that's fine. On the other side of the floor, Kim Caldwell, dog.
Let's talk about it.
I've been saying this now since January. Kim Caldwell has the goods, bro.
Mm.
Like they might have found a real one with a capital R. Just great coach, no fear of any of these moments, man. I mean, when you think about coaches doing this for the first time, and like Marshall was her first trip to the tournament at all last year. And now they're in the Sweet 16 and they look great doing it. They looked incredible in the opening round, which was to be expected, but they look great on the road in a true road game against an Ohio State team that has shown at parts of this year that they can compete with teams of your caliber. And boy, if this is the baseline of year one of Kim Caldwell at Tennessee,
look,
like,
can I put something out there?
Conversations.
Can I put something out there? She just matched Kelly Harper's best March Madness performance in year one.
Holy crap! Yeah, Kelly never made
Sweet 16. Never passed the Sweet 16. So in year one, with you could kind of say like, especially for a system at the way she has, kind of a tattered together like roster formation in a way. Like I think the players have really grown accustomed to this, and which is a kind of a testament to Kim in that way. But this is now matched. I literally I went and checked the tape, like just now matched. So Sweet 16 is already at worst. This first season is already Kelly's best in that way.
Kelly Harper, what are you prepared to do about it?
What are you
prepared
to give us a
sweet bracket?
Yeah.
If you make the tournament with Missouri next year,
need that.
We already get the SEC matchups. I need something.
Need that.
I'll start the negativity myself, but I need. Yeah, Kelly, you got to step up and prove something, sister. Please.
Yeah. I mean, look, me and Andrew interviewed Kim Caldwell early, and it was preseason or right at the beginning of the season or preseason. And like, look, man, I felt good leaving that, like, just from like the idea of what this team was going to be. And it's still honestly like there was like when we interviewed her, there was a lot of talk about the offensive side of this and the threes and everything, because that was so different from Tennessee. But the defense is what has consistently shined through for this team throughout the entire season. And when that's your foundation is the defensive side of the ball, you're able to kind of take more of the risky approach on the offensive end with the threes and whatnot that they do. And obviously there's always kind of potential for a crash out when that is your offensive style. But I mean, look, we're seeing it work right now. And I'll tell you right now, presumably that next matchup is Texas, a team that they barely lost to on the road in Austin. And let me tell you right now, if those Tennessee threes are falling, Texas, when it comes to that, they're not going to match threes, So like, I certainly don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but like the ceiling.
I do.
Okay. Well, if we're doing it, the ceiling in this region, you're talking about a Notre Dame team that we're going to get to, but obviously has had their inconsistency as late. TCU looked good today, but everything was falling. The others looked great. Like you're probably not getting that field goal percentage for TCU, every single time. So like people have their doubts about the Big 12 and what that means for TCU and everything. But just generally speaking, there's a very real chance that Tennessee is in the Elite Eight, and I'm not gonna take the next step. But it's possible. Like if it happened, it wouldn't be like some like, oh my God, I can't, like there's a reasonable line of thinking for a Tennessee Final Four.
What's good?
Kelly got to pull the Buffalo Wild Wings button. Ain't no way. You cannot just sit there and let that happen.
I want this for all of the Tennessee fans that have adopted Dawn Staley in South Carolina as their second team. What happens then? Where does your allegiance go? I'm curious. Are we I guess at that point you're just Rob Lowe with the NFL cap, except the NFL says SEC on it. And you're just like our conference solidarity.
It's never been me.
Baby. Solidarity.
I don't even know what you're talking about because I'm black, but so it's never been me.
Saying, bro, it's like I want that for a sheer storyline. But beyond that, what is so amazing about this Tennessee team is the fact that they do it with a bunch of different people, and yet they have a star. And at this point, when you start to get this late in the tournament, you need a team, sure, but you need a star. And I don't know if we've talked about Talasia Cooper as a star in women's college basketball this season, or if we, even us on this show, if we have done it enough. Because she's a bucket getter, man. And she's done this all year. And I feel like a couple of those late game buzzer beater type losses, you flip those into wins, and maybe the national discussion around her in Tennessee is different. Boy, howdy, she is really, really good and demands to be spoken of as such. If we're selling stock in Ohio State, we are buying stock in
as
Tennessee.
much as you possibly can, because the recruitment's coming too.
Oh, Rocket Top.
Woo!
I will say, no, that's where my
Yeah.
solidarity lies, because that's on
Hey.
heater. I
almost entered the show singing.
That song's like heater. They got one with that one.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah.
They got to lose now. It's
They
we're
cooked.
doing too much. It's
No, this is
that
too
orange is
okay.
ugly.
All right, Shawnee. Well, then let's pivot because you have boots on the ground. You want to talk about another SEC team? She got a little wicked. It was just for a little bit there. There was a little bit of a scare for South Carolina and Indiana. You had boots on the ground. Like, give us, the full report, the full rundown. Like, how are you feeling? What were the vibes? Like, let's just dive in.
The vibes were vibing. I did have the question in questions raised. Could Indiana create a matchup problem like they did last year? Absolutely. Yeah. It was looking real nasty there in that first half. And they didn't need Mackenzie Holmes. So to their credit, like that's where I was like, okay, I feel like they're a much different team without her,
Sure. Yeah.
But they was still hooping. They still did their thing. They were hitting their shots. That was one thing I noticed, like first round, like they execute really well. Like they are a very precise team. And like Don Staley said that in the post game, like, they're a well-oiled machine. They do everything methodically and meticulously, and like they do their thing, and they did that, and it was giving us fits because another question I had is the young trio, ready to take over the teams? Yeah. Not quite. Bless their hearts. No. Joyce looked a little out of sorts. Like they were packing the paint, pushing her out. Shots weren't bad at all, and once she like gets more comfortable, those shots are gonna fall. Malaysia looked like she let the game speed her up a little bit instead of like vice versa. So it's like Tessa was fine, but the young trio was fine. Indiana did their thing, man, and they're like one piece away from really like making that jump and getting over that hump. And I don't think it's like a Stanford thing, right? Remember, Andrew, where it was like Stanford was constructed to beat South Carolina and then struggled against everyone else. Like I think like they can compete like truly if they go get them like one solid bucket getter.
That's what they need.
And maybe like one more shooter.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Coach
that's where I was at. I did to the point about Joyce. I saw like some of like the post game stuff, and I actually loved her answer that she gave. This was like the first time she had really been doubled for real. Like that's what she was talking about. Like, and like I loved her answer to it. Of like I'm like they kind of got me today. Like I wasn't prepared, but like
I ain't gonna lie.
But like the tone of it was very mature in the sense of like I was not ready for this. Like, but next time, like I know I learned actively through this. I want to pull this comment up. Y'all need to pick a lane first. We're acting like the Big Ten is sus. The next breath, Indiana can scare the dog crap. They did.
Also, I said the Big Ten was sus. She big upped Indiana.
Yeah. The next breath, Indiana can't. Like, look, man. Obviously, South Carolina went on the third quarter run, but like, don't act like that first half didn't happen, y'all. Like that.
Like it was spooky. It really was. And like we had to go on a run to start the third, and then the defense picked up a little bit, and they were saying like in post game, like South Carolina came out and picked up the intensity. Numbers were reported like 12,000 in CLA, and I demand a recount. I'm so sorry. Like when Bree Hall hit that three, I promise
it got
you,
loud. Yeah,
bro, my eardrums were like about to pop. Like I could feel it. I've never heard it that loud in the years I've been going to games. So for that to only come from 12,000 people, like it was like we're on like press row, like looking like, yo, have you ever heard that before? Yeah, like, hey, yo.
Yeah, that happens at Oklahoma.
None of us, I bet. And it's like the steer pulling and the cart falling.
That's crazy.
You know, it gets rowdy in the Lloyd Noble Center.
Sorry, yeah, I know it gets rowdy. Boomer sooner.
I do want to give credit. I do want to give credit on one end because you know, she's taken a lot of arrows this year, and you know, some from us. I don't think you can always hang your hat on the intangible factor because intangibles only get you so far when we're talking about you as a next level prospect. However, Raven Johnson seemed to stabilize that offense a little bit today. And when you have those younger guards, like you mentioned, Shawnee, getting sped up by an Indiana team that just, I don't really read much into, you know, and maybe this is my, you know, a blind spot. I don't know. I didn't read much into like the smarter comments by Sidney Parrish because at the end of the day, that's what Indiana does. They don't make a lot of mistakes and they force you to do so. I don't think that's, you know, I don't think it was coded. I don't think it means you're smarter than them on like.
Well, no, and that's not what the question asked was. It was kind of like, the question was more so like, how can y'all create an advantage and like, where can you, and it was kind of like not beating ourselves, not making those mental mistakes and like playing high IQ basketball. It wasn't like in comparison to them. It was like, this is what we got to do.
We do well.
And because it's like, nobody's going to say Indiana's more athletic, like going to go out athletic somebody, respect to them, because like they push the tempo, but like that's where they said they could create an edge by just playing smart basketball. Yeah. So I didn't particularly like how it turned into that in the locker room interviews, because in the post-game interviews, everything was really like, you know, Terry's a good coach. Don's a good coach. This is a great environment. Yeah. You know, everything was so good. And then it's like, you look at what was said in the locker room and it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What y'all got going on back there? And I feel like it set Raven up a little bit to, I don't know how the question was asked. I wasn't back there, but like the way she responded, I didn't like it because I'm like, that's not what she said. And like now we're taking it and turning it into an entirely different quote with an entirely different context and an entirely different meaning. And it's like, you can't do that.
Yeah. Well, I actually have the clip here if you want to listen to what Raven said.
Not really.
If you don't need to, that's fine. That's fine.
I would actually like to delete the tape if
just offering.
We can delete the tape.
But I'm with y'all. Like I think it got blown up way further than it ever needed to be.
The reason I brought this up in the first place is because, in a way, you have to mention how smart Indiana plays to really understand why Raven Johnson deserves her flowers today. That's like the very funny thing about like how those quotes work with the praise that is being heaped on her right now, because the reason that she was so effective in this game is because she is the smartest guard that South Carolina has. And so when you go up,
she said that in her quotes, though. Yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off, but like when she finishes the quote, she was like, "Indiana did X, Y, Z," and I'm like, so if you're giving them credit for playing smart, why was it a dig and a jab for them to say we have to play smart? Like that's where I'm kind of like we're contradicting ourselves, and I don't,
Well, and so I feel like there was smart and smarter that kind of existed in tandem today. So I give Raven a heck of a lot of credit, man. Like, you know, she takes a lot of darts from people, sometimes rightfully so, in terms of, you know, how people talk about her as a next level player versus what the scout actually is. But she was indispensable today. You know, I've been a big believer in allowing Mylesia Fulwiley to have all the minutes and work through all the stuff. But this might have been a game where like you legit can't afford to do that. And so what that means is you have to go to Raven Johnson to be able to do what you need to do to facilitate the offense. I was really impressed with Indiana. Indiana's like one of those teams mentally for South Carolina where no matter what, they're just always going to get a tough game. Every team has this, by the way. Like, this isn't restricted to South Carolina. Every team has one other team that just gives them hell for no reason whatsoever. Like, when I was covering Oregon, it was always Charlie Turner Thorne's Arizona State. Every single time without fail. Like, it didn't matter how good Oregon was. It didn't matter if they were number one team in the country like they were when they went down to Tempe in 2019. Like, they will either lose or win in the shittiest of fashions because something about how that team is constructed and schemed just doesn't agree with what it is for Oregon. Indiana is that for South Carolina. And I do think that the amazing thing about South Carolina is that they rely on, in some way, I feel coaches get scared when they coach Dawn Staley in South Carolina. Like, I think there is a little bit of like a shookness because the best sports analogy I can relate it to is like the way golfers used to talk about going into the first tee box on Sunday with Tiger Woods and he's wearing the red and the black hat and otherwise generational
time it is
apart. Because they were like, because there's just like this aura around Tiger on Sunday in the prime where it was like, oh, I'm not going to win today. Like I'm playing for second. And I feel like Don's kind of got that aura with this team where like coaches or players come into CLA and are like, we're not going to win. Terry Morin, for whatever reason, built that Indiana team to not fear anyone or anything. And there was no back down in them at all. The only difference in this game was South Carolina's got a lot of really good players, and they eventually make their shots, and they will D you up. And Dawn Staley is, shout out to the Athletic Anonymous poll, Dawn Staley is the X's and O's coach, man. Like, every single halftime, it doesn't matter. I'm at a point right now, I think I put it in the Reddit thread on r/NCAAW. I was like, Terry better have something in this bob to unleash in this game because Dawn is going to come out with some devious shit in the third
quarter, man.
Dawn
every time
in the third, as always. Like, that's what these games come down to, especially in March. So, like, Indiana did play well, but boy, South Carolina needs their flowers because nearly selling the clip for a half in front of your own fans is crazy work. But what's amazing is there was absolutely no doubt from fans anywhere that I saw today that they went into the half and they were like, oh, shoot, we're going to lose this. They were like, nope, Dawn's going to do it. And then Dawn did the thing. It's like, okay,
everything I saw.
That's why you're the program of the moment.
Yeah, no, everything I saw, including myself, was like, man, I know Dawn is I know she's got a crazy
and Terry said the same thing. She was like, I'm sure Dawn went in there. So it's
like, I believe it. Absolutely.
She wrote the question mark on the board again.
Or that's the thing. It was. I feel like it was an extreme. It was either like absolutely cooking them or just being like,
really?
This is what we're doing. Like, like I feel like it was easily like one or the other. Want to keep it pushing into. This one's a little bit more open and closed. Again, we're already 30 minutes in. Goodness. Notre Dame and Michigan. This was a game that like was kind of eyeballed where it was like we saw Michigan's first round performance. We're like, okay, like they could be legit. Obviously, we've seen Sila rise to the occasion against big teams. Notre Dame cooked. So there's one storyline here that there's two questions I have, and Shawnee, one of them is your questions from your article. Is Notre Dame back? Was the first question. Quick hits from both of y'all. Do we feel that Notre Dame is quote unquote back based on these first two rounds?
Yes, I feel like it's first round. They're 3 seeds, so to put up 106 as a 3 seed, they took care of business. They did what they were supposed to do. A lot of other higher seeds didn't put up 106, so that told me what I needed to see, that they're off to a good start. Then they bounced back. I'm a little concerned about whatever's going on with Olivia. People were saying she had like a
that's what I got the quote. Yeah, come on, don't steal my thunder, Shawnee. Damn.
My bad. I just was doing research. My bad. But like, no, second round matchup against a solid Michigan team. Yeah. Like, I'm giving credit to the Big Ten. Just FYI, this is me. That's a good matchup, and they beat them pretty, soundly. So I say Notre Dame is back.
Okay, Andrew, we feeling back?
Absolutely. Leah Two King, 7 of 7 from the field. You put up 76. Maddie Westbeld, by the way, 1 of 9. And you still are able to do this.
Yeah.
The biggest question I had was what these front court rotations are looking like and how they're utilized. Granted, Michigan is not a team. They're like Ohio State. Like they're not a big centric team. So this might look a little bit different unless we get like a real front court battle like that you might see coming up. But dude, I mean, what do you say about this backcourt? Like they're incredible. Even when Olivia Miles is less than 100%. But I would actually have a bit of a hot take here and say that might actually be good for them. Because from a scheme fit perspective, they're at their best when she is not one of the primary shooters. And I feel like toward the end of the year, like she shot the ball a lot, more than we're used to really seeing of her. And I wondered what that was doing in regards to like who's actually getting the touches and how the offense is being initiated and facilitated. It feels like if she actually steps back a little bit into the role of being more of a floor general that kind of keeps an eye on everything, I wonder if that actually is unlocking what Notre Dame does and does best. So yeah, back with a capital B. I love it. Niele Ivey, it is your time.
The pressure. As Shawnee put, that's the pressure.
Ain't no pressure. She's the pressure.
Yeah, she's the pressure.
Daddy's up 10 at the half.
To reference the quote that came after the game, Olivia Miles called it. This is from Tyler Horka on Twitter. Notre Dame's Olivia Miles called it 50-50 she'd play today. She said her body was 45%. The media saw her black and blue ankle post game. It was gnarly, serious swelling. And this quote, I woke up thinking I wasn't going to play. Then I was like, F it, I want to get out there. Obviously her last home game for Notre Dame. But that doesn't sound great. Andrew, I kind of see where you're coming from, like from a play style perspective, but 45% is not, it's one like 75% taking less shots is a whole lot different than 45% and what that could do. Again, even though defensively they looked great today, that's kind of more where my head goes is like, is that something that can be taken advantage of on that end?
If you can do 45 on a black and blue ankle,
that's crazy. I ain't gonna lie.
60 on a less, let's take the black and, some of the blue off the ankle and get to 65. If she can will herself.
Well, I think the big question is like, how many percentage points do you think she's getting back in the next 3-4 days?
Well, I'm saying I was literally just going to
they have
again. They have 6 days until their next game. So you'll get some time to hopefully get that swelling down.
Is it still snowing in South Bend? Like, just go outside.
Yeah, you might need to get that. Yes, this comment right here. We are watching this UCLA game as well.
It's right here.
And so like we're
like, what is going on?
So if it gets down to the wire, we might do this live. We'll figure it out. But yes, we have it on the screen as well. Again, we just didn't want to keep everyone up, too late on a Sunday night. We didn't want to do y'all like that. But tied at 36 at the half. UCLA, IMO, Corey Close. What are you prepared to do about it? But let's keep this rolling so we can potentially, if we need to lock in on this UCLA game, we absolutely can. Well, let's talk about the team that Notre Dame is about to go play, because the Hailey Van Lith Bowl.
It's all yours,
First off, Shawnee, I'll let you go on your victory lap here first, and then we'll dive into some of like the other aspects of this game. But as Hailey Van Lith's #1 supporter, just how does this one feel?
It feels great. We got cinema today. Shout out to Jada Curry, man. 41.
41.
She was hooping so hard.
Offense. Yes.
Like, you looking at one stretch, it said like 14 of Louisville, 16 points. I was like, yo, calm down.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so props to her, credit to her. Olivia Cochran was balling out, doing her thing. But Hailey Van Lith, we got the double-double. We got the dub. It don't matter what else happens, because guess what?
6 of 11 shooting, Shawnee. Like, come on. We
used to pray for times like this so we can shine like this. It's so up. Yeah. Like, I knew when we got the graphic of her fouling herself, like, we was about to get something electric going on. It's just and she delivered.
Yeah.
Jeff Walls did not punch Mark Campbell, so like I have to go review
Jury's
on how I feel
still
about
out
that.
on.
Yeah. Shout out to the real riders in the chat that back me and know the Jeff Walls agenda is only joking if he's not serious.
Mm-hmm.
He could still disprove it. I don't know. I'm just happy for her, man. And then now we get to see we get Notre Dame and
we got a classic HBO ACC matchup now. Like this is telling you,
throwback.
It's the Sinister Six of Hailey Van Lith. Like as we continue, like it's phenomenal. Like this is awesome.
In an alternate reality, it would be LSU versus TCU, the Purple Bowl and the championship.
Could
but
you
no,
imagine?
No, thank you.
Could you?
I gotta
imagine?
it off. So sorry, sisters.
Could you imagine? You want to talk about the Sinister Six going against South Carolina in the Final Four potentially? Goodness gracious,
bro!
That goes back to the laughing at the talking.
Yeah, dude. There's beef anywhere if you just look hard enough. Come on now.
Exactly.
Shout out to Hailey Van Lith.
This game also, by the way, is like a kaiju fight for Twitter's biggest villains of the year. Hannah Hidalgo and Sedona Prince. Like this is Godzilla.
You just ripped the Band-Aid off on that one.
For various reasons. I do not like making one the same stature as the other. That's kind of wicked.
Yeah.
You know that will be put on equal footing, however. Everyone can hate if you find the right place to.
Yeah.
I do want to say this. Shout out Jada Curry, dog.
Bro.
Like,
so good.
Jada Curry put Louisville on her goddamn back and almost did it. Like, 2.5 minutes left in the fourth, like, almost got them back in striking distance. 41 points on 28 shots. 6 of 12 from 3, 9 of 9 from the line. Another 5 assists and 3 steals. Like, dude, it is like that's the best performance she has ever had as a college basketball player, going all the way back to her days at Cal. It's a bummer that Taj Roberts had such a bad night. She was 1 for 10. I was expecting a lot more out of Olivia Cochran in this matchup. I'm going to be honest with you. It felt like there was a lot of meat on the bone for a player that I expected to be able to battle Sedona pretty effectively. And oddly enough, like they kept her off the boards to a reasonable degree. She only had 4 tonight, which
that's Oregon numbers.
A lot about that. But yeah, to your point, Tyler, 63% from the field and 61% from three is crazy from TCU.
Like that's not going to happen especially against Notre Dame's perimeter defense. I don't expect that to happen.
6 of 6 and 4.
Bro, let's talk about. I want to highlight the others, as John here in the comment section is highlighting. Like I know Donovan Hunter has been a personal favorite player. Like I loved her at Oregon State, and like it's been a different role for her with Hailey Van Lith really just coming in and being so ball dominant. Where a lot of times we saw her initiating the very systematic offense of Oregon State, even early on in her freshman year. I'm very excited for. Again, I'm not putting this level of like offensive scoring production as like the expectation by any means, but when it comes to like kind of like maybe projecting ahead a little bit to next season, like I'm intrigued at what this could be when she has the ball more than likely in her hands again, and obviously kind of depends on what TCU ends up doing in the portal. But I mean, I can't believe
Mark about this game, honestly, is if Jada Curry had gotten it done and TCU would have lost, it still would have been the Hailey Van Lith experience. It would have just been we don't lose.
This is actually true. This is
like we would have won regardless.
Damn, dude, this was really like an agenda-proof game, wasn't it?
Oh, there was
you don't get many of these like
when you hate ethically enough, there's always something to have. Like there's always something
right in the back pocket.
Yeah, I mean, again, like the fact that. I can't get over this, but like last year, a little over a year ago, TCU had open tryouts and are now a couple games away from a Final Four. You know, like that's like that shouldn't this tournament obviously it goes through the portal and the experience that TCU has because like this is TCU's first ever Sweet 16 for the university, men's or women's. This is their first ever Sweet 16. And so like the fact that, again, there's so much experience on this roster. So it's not like your normal kind of turnaround, like in that way where it's like, but like the fact you're still even able to do this, one, shows a complete different kind of strategy in the portal era, like in this way. I think we saw it with Oregon as well this season, which we're going to talk about. So sorry, Andrew. But like the stand, like there's a new way of getting it done. And TCU from this point here, the sellout crowd today, like the buy-in from Fort Worth, obviously the success that you win the conference tournament, you win the regular season conference. There's a new way to get it done in this NIL transfer portal era, and Mark Campbell perfected it immediately and is now being the person that can really kind of seek the benefits of it when it comes to a turnaround perspective more than anybody across the nation right now, which is so impressive to me.
Well, and it tracks with what he's always wanted. I covered Mark at 2 different stops at Oregon and Sacramento State. Him and I have, talked before about building programs and the type of fits that you want. He had a lot of job offers when he was an assistant at Oregon, and there were ones that he did not take because he didn't like the fit or didn't think the program was conducive to winning. To be honest, I don't think he would ever go back to Oregon for that reason, because he's said to me in the past, like, I don't know how good your player retention can be because it's a hard place to live in the winter, which is true. Like, you have to really understand you're not getting the best time of year, which is the summer in Oregon. You have to be there when it's rainy and 40 all year. To him, Dallas is a good market. Texas is a great state for women's basketball. TCU cares about their athletics, and he can build a program. It's a good place to live, good place to raise a family as a coach, as a father, as a person. In a lot of ways, I think TCU is exactly the type of fit that he was looking for. And so it wouldn't shock me if he took a program and wanted to make it in his image. I think there are some coaches that have the desire to take over from great programs and have the ability to like elevate them into something different. I think there's other coaches, like Gino at UConn is one, right? Like the example of a coach that goes to a school and they stay there because they know there will be a statue. Dawn, Dawn's the same way at South Carolina, right? Like there's bits and pieces of historic relevance for that program under Nancy Wilson, but nothing like what Dawn has made South Carolina into. So I think the same is happening for Mark Campbell at TCU right now. I think there is a very good chance he could lay down roots and make a career there and turn TCU into an annual contender the way they are now. So shouts to him. I mean, this is a really, really an impressive build of a program. And I know that that's going to chafe on a lot of Oregon fans. But you know what? I know I'm going to let you segue into that because I think. Yeah,
I do want to, we're going to talk about Oregon. I did want to pull this comment up because I think it's a good question. If just whatever thoughts you have on this, Andrew, what is the secret to Mark Campbell's success in the transfer portal? Because I know this kind of dates, like, I know he was a big part of like the Oregon pitches alongside like in that period as well, from kind of what you've talked about. Like, so like what is to you, like what makes Mark Campbell the person that can go and do this in the transfer portal? Obviously you have the program, you have the backing of NIL, but like what makes Mark Campbell the right coach to do that in this way?
Well, from what I can say on the record,
okay, well,
he's genuinely a really nice guy. He is he's a laid back dude. He sells program vision. And he is one of these coaches that takes an interest in the kids. And I think that right now is the great divider of coaches in the portal and in recruiting generally. And it's why you've seen a lot of older coaches like a Tara Vanderveer, for instance, who is like the definition of like old ball coach. That's why you're starting to see them kind of retire or have to change up how they do things. People are gravitating more to coaches that are very clear in the fact that I'm not just your coach. Like, I care about you as a person and I am here for you. Kim Caldwell has talked about that in her types of recruiting. I mean, how many players have we heard of in South Carolina that reap a ton of praise on Dawn Staley for this very reason? All of these stories that have come out, from Lauren Betts on her transfer to UCLA, including our cover story on NoCapSpaceWBB.com. All of that is about how Corey Close was able to maintain a relationship with Morin as just a person, right? And I think Mark is really good at that. He was really good at it as an assistant, and I think he's really good at it as a head coach. He's got a great staff around him too. Like Xavi is very much the same way. It's his main defensive coach. Mignon Moore's on his staff. She was on that Oregon team in 2020. There's a lot of like Oregon contacts and connections from those early years that were there that he can lean on. And the one thing I am curious about, to Joe's point, is like these were all players that he did know prior in terms of being able to recruit people that he had gotten in high school and then kind of kept and maintained the relationship and brought them over. Once that kind of original group goes out, I'm curious who comes in.
It looks like.
Because his ability to maintain those relationships, that's the portal secret right now. Is, if you lose out on a player once, you don't give up on them. You keep recruiting them. Maybe if they hit the portal, they will come to you. So that's, a small Mark Campbell anecdote on his ability.
Now you're saying he's a duck merchant?
Well,
that's a hating ass belief.
That is like the worst case scenario, to be honest. Like
2 years. Look.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that the interesting thing now is like, like once his ducks are no longer in a row, like then what? And like, but I think they are able to kind of set a very interesting precedent at TCU now via the players that so then maybe the players you don't trust you more is kind of what I'm interested in seeing. But we will segue over to the Oregon Ducks.
And we need to, because you was making it sound like Maryland West for a second. Like, oh yeah, you come here and then you go someplace else. Like, oh goodness.
This is true. Greer. TCU has been popping up in a lot of TCU, like in top 5s and top 10s. TCU's name has been near some top. So like, I'm
oil money.
We'll have to see how much they hit on, but like we'll see. But let's pivot over to this Oregon Duke game. I mean, look, Deja Kelly gave pretty much everything she could in this one. Like some fantastic post-game comments as well. But Ashlyn Jackson in the second half for Duke was just phenomenal. She had 20 points in the game. I think all 20 came in the second half, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Just a crazy turn up. Andrew, your ISO on this game. What are the feelings?
Well, before he does that, I would like to say, like, yes. I asked that question, is Oregon back? And as Oregon's biggest hater? Bro. Yeah, I said yes. It was revitalized for a second. No thanks to Sabrina. She was supposed to be there as like the player development person. She got hired like a couple years ago, has never shown up. Deja Kelly had to come in and save the day. So I think, they've gotten Oregon back into, mainstream conversations. Your victory lap now.
Okay. To win in the second round would have been a huge deal for this program, especially as a 10 seed. Duke was out Toby Fournier. Oregon, it should be noted, was without Elisa Mevius, who was arguably their second best player this year in tandem with Deja Kelly. But they also lost Peyton Scott, who is the backcourt mate of Deja's, had a non-contact knee injury that took her out basically the entire second half of this game. And if you notice, like that's where things got their most squirrely. Yeah. I do think that Oregon is back in as much as they might not ever be a Final Four contender team ever again. However, I think a lot of the shit thrown Kelly Graves' way is a lot of wish casting by people in the space, in the women's basketball space that think he's a dick and want to see him fired. Like, I think that's really where a lot of this stuff comes from. And it's fair. Like, look, one of the things I really appreciate about Kelly, and I have a relationship with him, like professionally. If I ever have questions about anything basketball related, like I can text him and count on his counsel. Like, he's a good dude. I like him. Like, I'll just say that up front. One of the things I always appreciate about him is he lets you speak your mind to him. There's a lot of coaches that have such a heavy ego that, like, if you say something that they don't like, they are going to get pissy with you because their ego is blasted. I've said stuff to him point blank before, being like, yeah, I think you were kind of an asshole around this time. And like, he'll listen and he'll discuss it. And I think the thing with Oregon that is a bit of a bummer is I feel like even though they got bounced here, this was a really good story this year, man. Like, I feel like if it wasn't Oregon and it wasn't Kelly Graves, we would be talking about this a lot more. This is a coach that saw the writing on the wall and changed. Like, instead of doing the Principal Skinner, like, am I wrong? No, it's the kids that are wrong. Like, the dude looked in the mirror and was like, what do I need to do better? Like, where do I need to change? And then he gets help in the form of Deja Kelly, who, this year, the absolute effusive praise that she has heaped on Kelly and heaped on this program for getting her love of basketball back. That stands in really stark contrast to like the dozen or so transfers that we've seen since 2020, where it's all these horror stories about how shitty the program environment is. You have your best player who has been on another Sweet 16 caliber team and program before saying this place allowed me to love basketball again. To me, that signals a change inside your team culture from the top down. That's literally the type of story that we should be elevating, is people desiring to see things that they do wrong, take accountability, and change it. There's like a really teachable lesson in there on the more broad out of basketball bit. And to see people still kind of like shove it on them is just like, damn, y'all really are pissed off. That's Sabrina said they'd win in 20. Like, holy shit, it's been 5 years, y'all. Like,
okay, because she was lying.
Shawnee said, yeah, exactly. I'm still mad.
No reason for that. No, because she was lying. She was not even the number one seed. She wasn't even number one.
Shawnee, only one of our schools hung a banner for something that didn't happen.
Okay, that's environmental racism. First off, that's environmental racism for us to not even get to play the game and show, because she had 4 years to go ahead and win a championship. She didn't do it in any other year. So now everybody's all like, oh yeah, she would have done it this year. Why? What has she done to make you believe that she would have done it in 2020? Like, look, we were the number one team. We were the best team in the nation. We were clicking on all cylinders. Anybody to believe that she would have done it in 2020. Like, everybody likes to use that as like her excuse. But what did she do the other 3 years?
Bro, all I'm saying is to
what did she do the other 3 years?
To still hold that against the coach 5 years after the fact is crazy. That's
no, I was just watching how everybody left and was kind of like, you gave us Sabrina, that's your fault. So now I definitely don't like you. But he did give us Pow Pow. So like, I am grateful for him unhanding my daughter and allowing us to,
yes. To get back to my original point, like they're never going to be back to a Final Four team ever again. But like, reasons to hate on what Kelly's had to deal with in the last 4 years, fair. Like, I give the guy a modicum of grace. Like, your lifelong dream gets taken away from you by something that you have no control over. Like, yeah, I would get a little peeved at that too. Like, Dawn had won a title by then. Like, Dawn had already earned the stamp. So, like, she didn't need, like, obviously she would have wanted another title, but she didn't need another title.
Kind of. No, okay. And I get what you're saying. And I don't want to relitigate the whole thing, but I was there at the time. At the time, that's when like all of our all of the complaints you're saying now were like completely valid. They were like playing in our faces in 2020 and acting like we were scrubs. Like, people are having like top player, like it was a whole bunch of stuff going on, and people were playing in Don's face like that. It was peak at that time. So we did kind of need that title too. I ain't gonna hold you.
Well, I think narratively, yes, you're right. But I think like as far as Dawn knowing that she could do it, for instance, on a personal level,
right? Yeah,
I think she had that. But like, he lost that and may never get that back. Was my point. And like, and look, I think it's fair to say, given how many of his former players are out at other teams doing well, and how many are still in the tournament, or his old assistant going to the Sweet 16, like, sure, there's a lot of different things you could say for that. But the fact that they gave Duke a scare in their own house is enough to show me that this program is restabilized to a point where we can still consider them nationally relevant every year. Now, to Duke, and I'll say this for Duke, man, Action Jackson, amazing. amazing stuff in that third quarter. Like those are the types of singular performances that I again, March is all about. I wish we handled the first 2 rounds differently because I feel like we leave a lot on the bone by kind of ceding it to the men. I feel like the way it works right now is like the world watches the first 2 rounds of the men's tournaments for the upsets, and then they come to the Sweet 16 and on for the women because that's where the good basketball is. And that to me is like, it's a bummer because we lose like the 41-point game from Jada Curry, right? Like that kind of falls away into history. Ashlyn Jackson's performance in this game should not fall to history, man. That was a phenomenal third quarter from her. Extremely impressed by Duke. I think the thing that to me stood out the most was Kara Lawson's coaching here. Philly Che killed them in the first half, like capital K killed them. And into the third quarter, Kara had made adjustments to turn Oregon's star into a weak point. And the ability to almost manufacture that around is a really impressive coaching masterstroke from her. And to me, that's like, those are the margins. Those are the margins that get you to Elite Eights and Final Fours and that type of stuff. So is Duke ready to see South Carolina potentially next week? I don't know about that, but I do know that there's good enough coaching on this team that even when you're without your best player in Toby Fournier, you still have the ability to pull out a game. Now you almost sold it. You're just
those last like minute, those were crazy. Like it got wicked. Like I really thought, I really thought it might happen. Look, man, we might be getting Duke UNC, and I don't want that. So, like I don't.
I'm not trying to see Alyssa Utsby take on.
I'm so sorry.
Her rival.
I'm so sorry.
Again.
No.
Okay.
All I will say about this, because I gotta hop off for a sec. I might be back on. Duke UNC has the potential to be the most disgusting hoops March has ever produced. Despicable, disgraceful, heinous, war crime, satanic in nature. We may end up with some of the absolute most diabolical basketball that James Naismith could not have imagined even in his wildest opium bed. It would have been crazy. Okay, I will see y'all later. West Virginia might win anyway.
He didn't hang out those peach baskets to see Duke UNC.
Nathan's going to come back. We talk about the basketball gods. They're going to be like, nope. We're going to put that over there.
Bro, that's enough.
Bro, they're going to hear the Undertaker gong when UNC's up by 2 at the last minute.
This is going to come with a knife and just deflate all the basketballs. Like, no, we're not playing anything in here.
Someone said unethical. Oh, my goodness. That is... And he just leaves. He leaves us with that. That's
like, respect the Duke UNC.
No, like it's obviously like the rivalry is good, but like,
but like I don't know what to say today.
I don't want to see that game.
Oh my gosh,
that was what a crazy way to leave that. Just for a quick little UCLA Richmond update. UCLA currently finds himself up 8 with 6 minutes left in the third.
All right. They got it.
Yeah, I'm. That makes you feel a little bit better. So call it early. Well, look. Goodness, I don't even know where to go. Well, look, if that's what you guys like, was that back and forth between Shawnee and Andrew, make sure you subscribe for our WNBA season, because you get that every single night here on the No Cap Space post game show, one way or another.
I'm in the lead though. Sorry.
Yeah, one way or another, it makes its way back to Sabrina Ionescu.
The root of all evil.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyways, let's talk about. Shawnee, I don't know how much of the other games you got to see today as you were covering. But did you get to see any in Kansas State, Kentucky?
Oh man, I saw the last 8 seconds of regulation and was a little confused as to Why?
Yeah.
Like, I beg your pardon.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll kind of call the ISO here on this one because this game was fantastic. Probably the best game of the tournament so far. I think Vandy Oregon also went to overtime. I'd probably have this one over that. Like you want to talk about just real life bucket getting. Goodness gracious. That was fantastic. Bucket for bucket. Like the one boxing ref where he's like, ooh. Like that's how I felt the entire time watching this. First off, I was so happy to see Tamira Poindexter and pop off the way she did. She was like 0 for 6 from 3 or something like that. Like it was crazy. She ends the game 8 of 15 from 3. There was a pop off. And Kentucky kind of kept leaving her open, but that's Oklahoma's own Tamira Poindexter. She's a Tulsa transfer. It was one of the transfers. It didn't work out in the way I anticipated, mostly honestly because Ayoka Lee got injured during the season. But she was like the exact floor spacer, just from a pure shooting perspective, that like you want next to a star big like that, and it showed completely in this. Also, Serena Sundell, 19 points, 14 assists. Hooped, was so clutch in this. I mean, this was kind of exactly what Serena Sundell does was this game. And also Ayoka Lee, 28 minutes in this, obviously working her way back from injury still. Like they say she's 100%, but I still don't feel like you're 100% until you get on the court. She looked great. And I feel like, I put this in our chat, I feel like Kansas State does a really great job of making the most out of Ayoka Lee's minutes, where they're very good at pivoting back and forth between playing with Ayoka on the court versus not. And frankly, it's because they've had a lot of experience doing it without Ayoka this season and in past seasons, which is obviously very unfortunate, but it's just kind of the reality of the situation. But Ayoka Lee ends up with 16 points in this one. But again, Tamira Poindexter was just knocking him down again, 8 threes. And Georgia Amore, obviously this is the last game of her career. And I mean, and she seemed to be in as good a spirits as you can be in the post game, where she's like, I'm not going to let the one shot, because I mean, she got a pretty good look in overtime, to win it. It wouldn't have been to tie; it would have been to win, and it just bounces off the rim the wrong way, and that's March. That's what happens. Obviously, this team's going to look very different without a Georgia Amore. There's no doubt about that. And the foundation that she was able to set this year for Kenny Brooks at Kentucky feels massive. But there's a lot to be excited about for Kentucky, even if just looking at the bigs with Tiani Key and Clara Strack. I'm very intrigued by what Kenny Brooks can do. He's got the Liz Kitley avatar cycle going in Kentucky with Clara Strack. But man, that's a heartbreaker. Shout out to Tyler I am. Wasn't great. I saw him tweeting all the time. He was hurting. But
hey, still go get your merch. You can
go get your home field merch.
Don't be too ashamed.
Yeah. And so now the question, obviously for Kansas State, they move on. Presumably playing USC as USC matches up with Mississippi State. I mean, you never know, but they should be playing USC. And that's an interesting matchup, honestly.
Because we haven't really seen that, USC versus a lot of SEC schools.
We haven't.
Or not weekend.
Or Big 12. Well, are you saying for Mississippi State?
Huh?
You're saying the Mississippi State matchup. Sorry. I was thinking.
Yeah, no, because I was like, wait, is Mississippi State in the Big 12?
Sorry. I was thinking Kansas State. I was thinking the round ahead. See, I was already penciling them in.
Where have I been?
Yeah, no. I know. Conference realignment's getting crazy,
You're just making all types of decisions without me.
But yeah, I mean, look, Kenny Brooks without Georgia Amore, I don't know what that looks like. From a power forward perspective, we haven't seen him have success without Georgia. I mean, all his success has really come with Georgia Amore leading the way. She'll be on a WNBA, she'll be drafted, obviously. Again, I think I mentioned this on the first live when Kentucky played. I know teams have a first round respect for Georgia Amore, and obviously you have kind of the questions about the size, but I mean, the shot, making the shot, creating for other teammates, it's all like it's literally just the size. Like is really kind of the main worry for Amor, generally speaking. But
it
again,
sounds like it's time for Kenny to take another trip down under.
Down under, you got to. Like,
we need another guard.
Yeah. Okay, that is awful. That was
like half British.
I don't know what that was. But yeah. So I'm very interested in what Kentucky is. I mean, obviously, this is a very good foundational season, but how do you build off of it now? So yeah. I mean, that'll be interesting. But again, Kansas State and presumably USC. That's an interesting matchup. Like it really is, because I mean, Ayoka Lee, like again, I think because I mean, really the only player you could compare her to that USC has played against is Lauren Betts. But even then, I still feel like they're pretty different. Like even though it's just like the size comparison of that. But I think the big difference is honestly the mode switching that Kansas State can do. And you also have players that. Not that I think anyone's really going to stop Juju Watkins, but from a perimeter defense, like you have players that can kind of where UCLA kind of had to find like had to kind of pick their poison a little bit with Juju. They have a little bit more kind of a natural matchup on defense, like with some bigger guards, like Sundell, for example. So you add to Joe's point here, you add some of that 3-point shooting, it could get wicked. It could. There is a possibility for wickedness.
I hope it doesn't. I want the Jujenda to continue.
Well,
but I get it. You go out, you ball, you hoop. If you don't get it done, you go home. But dang, I do not want to see Juju go home.
Yeah, I don't either. But
Lindsay,
again,
what are you prepared to do about it?
Yeah,
you can't be her best defender.
Yeah. So Kansas State advances. Also, to John's point in the chat, Juju is not fully healthy, so we'll have to see. Like that's what I'm really eyeing for in that Mississippi State game. Assuming that it's a relatively easy win. Like we'll see. Like again, I don't want to put cart before the horse, but if outside of just the game itself, everyone's going to be on Juju watch just to see how she looks in that manner, just from a health perspective. So.
I'm taking up a collection for ankles. If you or anyone has some healthy ankles lying around that they're not really utilizing fully, please send them over to the No Cap Space Collection Fund. We are taking up a collection for ankles for underprivileged athletes who are now injured right this very second.
Yes.
You can help save a life. You can help save a bracket.
Yeah. Do
your part.
If Juju is willing to have a gluten intolerant ankle, she can take mine. But yeah, again, I mean, this was probably the best game of the tournament so far. Just true bucket getting back to back to back to back to back. Like they were just going after it. It was fantastic hoops, genuinely. And the last game that we haven't hit on yet is Ole Miss and Baylor.
Yes.
I don't know. Did you get eyes on that one? Were you back?
I saw a little bit of it. Madison Scott was hooping and her grandma was there, so that's
is true.
A cool thing. That was one of my questions. We saw the success 2 years ago when they upset Stanford. They're back. They're back in the Sweet 16. The Yo era is a success officially. Not over, obviously, but I think you can go ahead and mark it the same way you're saying Kim Codwell.
Yeah.
Era is a success. Yeah. She's done her thing. This program is a legitimate mainstay in the tournament now, and I think the next step is how do we get to the Final Four? So do I think they're doing that this year? No. But do I like what they're doing and how she has assembled her team? No. No, I'm kidding. I do like that part. I don't like the coaching staff. Yes. But I like how they hustle. I like how they, they're gritty. They can get in the mud with anybody. So I like it. I think they could sneak another one. We could see who's next? Ole Miss and
is it UCLA? I think it's UCLA. Where's my bracket? Hold on. I stopped looking at my bracket.
If it's
for my
UCLA,
own mental
respectfully,
yes,
I think they could make it ugly.
Yes.
I could see it. It is not out of the realm of possibility to me. So
look, man,
it just means more sometimes. I'm not in solidarity with them. I'm just saying what is possible.
Yeah, because UCLA is officially up 17. So it will be
that one's
be
good.
UCLA. Is it time to have a Baylor
Richmond.
conversation?
Stop, John.
Do we need to have the Baylor conversation with Nikki Collin?
We might have to because she left Atlanta in the middle of the night to go do what?
That's,
Okay.
Baylor has been a very interesting team. I'm trying to think of her first year there because that was Melissa's last year. Was her first year.
Mm-hmm. And then didn't she have Asia Blackwell was next year, and then she was injured.
Yeah, because she came from. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think of the highest peak. I'm trying to think of Big 12 tournaments, stuff like that, early on. I'm kind of trying to think of how much early favor there was for this moment. You know what I mean? That's where my head is at right now. Where it's okay, where did this all because it feels like we're a little stuck at Baylor. I mean, there was really no I think I was lower on Baylor for a majority of the year than most people. I saw it was just from a rankings perspective and everything. I never was super high on them. It always seemed just kind of a little bit off with them throughout the season. And there wasn't really I guess when I'm trying to ask myself okay, you lose at home. You get the hosting spot, you now lose at home. What's next? For Kentucky, you have your bigs, you have your young bigs. Okay, you at least have this, right? I don't really know fully the answer on that for Baylor right now, and that's where I think my kind of hesitancy and concern is.
And it's been kind of spooky because they don't even have a sexy narrative where you can pinpoint what's actually going on. Like with Ole Miss, we know they're gonna play defense, we know they're gonna scrap and they're gonna hustle. That's their calling card. Baylor, I'm kind of I haven't really cared enough to really look into what. Okay, I know they got Von Lee. I remember that. So it's she's got.
There's talent.
Sarah Andrews,
there's
she's
talent.
Got names. So it's kind of now Little Page Bugs, bro. No, now I'm kind of what have you been doing?
Well, that's again, you are runner up in both the regular season and Big 12 conference tournament to TCU in this because for me I was really eyeing this year. Honestly, for the whole Big 12, to see who was going to step up with Texas and OU leaving. And, I mean, TCU has obviously been the one to really kind of take that challenge and run with it in the way that they do. Again, we'll be interested to see, obviously they'll have a lot of outgoing to see how that, kind of continues from there. But, Baylor was, again, obviously you're runner-up. So, it's not some complete disaster season you host. But, at some point, you're at Baylor. There's some high standard. Baylor is not TCU. Baylor is not even Iowa State had a disappointing season, but Iowa State hasn't gone all the way to that level in that way. This is Baylor, and so that's where just my expectations change for what that could be. So I'll be interested in seeing what that looks like in that way, in the sense of again, what comes next? What's in the portal? I don't know what the answer is.
I'm kind of curious. We need to talk to administration first, because do y'all care? Because you don't go from winning national championships and having players like Brittany Griner and Melissa Smith, and then even Dejanay Carrington for a minute and Dee Dee Richards. You don't go from having those type of talents and narratives and personalities and this, that, the third. And being, something that America watches and is invested into, what's going on now. Because that's, it's getting a little spooky. And then you're seeing, Texas pop up.
I was exactly the point I was about to make. Yep.
Your neighbors are now leveling up and you're kind of, stuck in the mud. So I'm curious what administration is thinking, because might be time to leave in the middle of the night again.
Because again, to your point, obviously, because Baylor, you have a brand new arena, which is a very nice arena. I got when I went there for Brittany Griner's jersey retirement last year, so that was the first year it opened. Super nice arena. It's you have investment on that point. Obviously, the men's team is playing there too, who is accomplishing their own right. But I don't know, man. It's not long ago this team was in a national championship.
Right.
That's not
Kim Mulkey was not calling timeouts as recently as
21?
Yeah.
21? Yeah.
4 years ago. Yeah.
I think 21. Yeah. So like this isn't like it's not a program where it's like Brittany Griner was like no, there's been like this was a program. This wasn't Brittany Griner. This was a program. It wasn't just like that kind of like that one player in that way. I think it was 21 because I remember
because Nalissa's a year. She came out a year ahead of Aaliyah. Aaliyah came 20. It might have. But it's recent. It's recent.
I was in college. I'll put it like that. I was in college,
recent.
so like it was recent.
Yeah, it's recent.
I remember watching it when I was supposed to be.
Like there are no VHS tapes of. We're not talking about VHS tapes of Baylor's success.
I was alive, They're
DVDs.
Yeah, and so again, like and maybe that is like an administration question of like, what is the standard? Are you cool with just hosting and like whatever happens? Because like. I mean, this is like
just vibing
right here. Like 3 out of Nikki Collins' 4 seasons at Baylor lost in the second round. Like Tyler was in college in like what 04? Oh, buddy.
Yeah,
sure.
Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, that's when it was. Yeah, yeah, 04 months ago. Like, but no. So like again, like that's where my eyes go to this. Again, to your point, like Ole Miss is never like if you're getting rolling offensively against Ole Miss, like the dad jokes. If you get rolling offensively against Ole Miss, like can they go bucket for bucket with you? No, that's always kind of been the knock on Ole Miss. But if they get you in the mud and like and that game just gets nasty
and drown you,
like
pull you under,
like
suffocate you.
If you get put in the Ole Miss quicksand, like I don't want to be in the Ole Miss quicksand, And so like that's always like I'm never gonna like discount or like write off an Ole Miss team until it happens. Honestly, like until
right.
So like that'll be very interesting. Goodness, we've already been on. We're almost an hour and 20 minutes. I'm glad we went early. But let's look ahead a little bit to tomorrow. I will have boots on the ground for Iowa, Oklahoma tomorrow. So I have you covered on that, whichever way it goes. Thank you, Andrew, for the Big Ten bulletin board material. I really appreciate that.
Love that. Love great. That. He said they're mid.
That's great.
Man, you gotta walk into that.
So that's good. Thank you for that. So I'm very excited for that game. Obviously, I think that should genuinely be a very fun one. There's so many connections between the two programs, the coaching staffs, and everything. But like everyone kind of like dialed it down, understandably. Like they wanted to make it about the players and the teams between the coaches and everything. Because Jan Jensen's first year at Iowa was Jenny Baranchek's freshman year as a player at Iowa, where she was like an all Big Ten player and all like she was legit from 2000 to 2004. So like there's a whole different backstory on that. Some of the Oklahoma staff coached like with Iowa, like there's all different types of things. But I'll have you covered on that, and I'll be here, whatever happens tomorrow night, to field whatever questions or comments or hate that I need to field. I will.
What do we say? Like 5 more paid? What are we at paid subscribers? I said if we get to a certain threshold, I will make it worse. We're at 76. If we get at 80, I'll be on here tomorrow to make whatever happens. It could be a win. Oklahoma could win, and I will figure out how to make it worse.
Okay, so we need 4 paid subscribers on the WBB.com is what you're saying to make my life hell. You know what? I'll get behind that one. That one, that is what it is. So go check out the website because I'm willing to make that sacrifice. But for you, I mean, there's a couple very, very solid games. I know the one I'm eyeing outside the one I'm covering is Florida State LSU. Like that one,
I'm locked in.
Yeah,
I'm driving home tomorrow. I gotta be positioned, situated, snacked up. Like. Yeah. I'm locked in.
Yeah. I'm very excited. Like that has the chance to, again, LSU looked healthy in that one. Obviously, Tania Latson is such a bucket. Like Tania Latson is the type of player that can win you any game because she's Tania Latson if she just gets hot. And Florida State
on the Jackrabbits.
This is true. There is UConn
that is happening. State. That is happening. Hey. Jackrabbits, they can muddy it up too.
Yeah, never want to see a Dakota in March. or Thanksgiving. Those are the two times you never want to see a Dakota.
They might give him some problems.
This is known. And then I think the other game for me, Michigan State, NC State. What NC State are we getting? Just let us know beforehand, and we can adapt appropriately. But if we get bad NC State, I mean, it could absolutely get wicked because Michigan State's a tough team, and like we saw what happened when Duke kind of just out toughed NC State, and like Michigan State doesn't have like a ton of size, but they got like 6'2", 6'3" as their two best players, and they're both tough. And I don't know how easy it's gonna be for them to match that. And so
Then we get to start the Westmore agenda. Well, I get to start.
I'm about to
do it. I will do it.
Don't act like you. As if you need permission.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, if anybody would like to join, I'm starting the Westmore agenda.
There you go. Okay. But yeah, folks, we'll be back tomorrow.
I'll do it for 2.
Why is the bid going down? Wait, hold on. What are we? Hold on.
If everybody just shows up, we'll do it.
No.
But
go
folks,
Jackrabbits.
On a serious note,
yes.
Your paid subscriptions. I'm going to Birmingham. We will have boots on the ground in Birmingham this upcoming weekend, and it's because of you. It's because of the support. It's because of what you're doing right now. You guys are maniacs. It's 11:42, and you're still here listening to us yap about basketball. But we do it because we love it, and we appreciate you guys loving it too. So again, thank you. And we'll have boots in Birmingham. In Birmingham.
This is all the road. So I have boots tomorrow here in North for OU Iowa. You'll have boots in Birmingham. Me, you, and Greer will have boots in Tampa Bay. And again, it all comes back to the support of y'all. So a couple things before we wrap up here, just to check all our boxes here. Again, free trials are available. If you go and check out the preview articles in God's time. Amen, John. Like you can go get a free trial. There's so much paid content out. You can go back into the archives and check out past paid content and whatnot. There's some feature stories and a whole bunch. There was a feature stories on Legos and the way that players are using Legos. Like Tanai Latson is going to be one of those players you see tomorrow. She's featured in the story. So there's that. There's so much other content going. So make sure to go check that out. Go give it a look. Free trial. Go get a taste of what all of this is. I mean, it's the most games going on right now. And, it's the end of the season. You got to be locked in and be as educated as you could possibly be. And that means both for the ball and for the hate. You know what I mean? Like, come on now. You got to be knowledgeable to be ethical. Okay? So that's what we're here to
I like
that.
Damn,
I can't. Hold on.
That's a bar.
So get ready with that. Also, if you're here on the YouTube, make sure that you are subscribed. Do you know that over 50% of our viewers, Shawnee, aren't subscribed? Can you believe it?
You guys.
So make sure right now, you might think you're subscribed. Sometimes it unsubscribes you. It gets weird. Make sure you're subscribed. Click the bell as well to be notified every time we go live. We'll be live again tomorrow with all the action because we're going to be live every single day for March Madness. We have been live every night so far. We will continue to be live
when there's games.
Yes, when there's yes.
Every single game day.
Yeah.
Every
Tuesday through Thursday, I'm sleeping. You will not hear from me. But make sure you subscribe here on the YouTube. Also, go check out the website, of course, and also Home Field Collection, NoCatSpaceWB.com. Use code NOCAT15 and get 15% off your first purchase. And the No Cat Space Collection, we have personally curated every single piece of women's basketball merchandise on the website for you to go and look at. And again, we did just pass 3,000 subs here. Shout out to Zero Mid, bro. Thank you. So make sure you subscribe here on the YouTube. And again, so much more content to come, so much more games to come, so much more dialogue to come, everything here with No Cat Space. So make sure you're tapped in across the board, websites, YouTube, socials, all of the above to make sure you don't
get in on his chat because John said his page is last game of the tournament tomorrow.
That's last game in stores. That's not last game of the tournament. That's last game in.
No, that's what he said. John, don't put words in his tweet.
That's last game.
Right that.
Look, what a perfect place to end it with Shawnee giving UConn hate. There's no better way to end it. Come back for some more tomorrow, because if it ain't Sabrina, it's UConn. We always got something coming from the Shawnee's way. what a perfect way to end it. Make sure to subscribe, following all across the board, and we will see y'all again tomorrow.